It's 5 p.m. on a gloomy Sunday here in Korea. I'm Daniel Choy with continued coverage of the Sewol-ho ferry accident. It's been more than 4 days since the 7,000-ton ship sank with more than 470 people on board. 56 people have been confirmed dead so far, and nearly 250 remain unaccounted for. Search and rescue operations have continued for the last 4 days, but no survivors have been found since. We begin with the investigations that's ongoing. We go to our Laah Hyun-kyung standing by at the news center for more. Hyun-kyung, what can you tell us about the latest?
Well, Daniel, the transcript of what was said between the Sewol-ho ferry and the Jindo Vessel Traffic Service, the marine traffic control tower for the area, has been made public. Now, the transcript shows that the first contact between the two was made at 9:06 a.m. Wednesday. They contacted each other 11 times and communicated for 31 minutes. The last time the two made contact was at 9:37 a.m. and reports say that's when the crew members started to leave the ferry. And at around 9:25, the control center told the ferry to decide whether to order passengers to abandon the vessel since it didn't know the situation there. The ferry said they are unable to make announcement through the speaker system because the system was down. Now, what is known, however, is during their last contact, the ferry told the control tower that only the people who were able to escape the left side of the ferry were able to leave the vessel. Now, the control tower also ordered nearby vessels to throw life vests into the ocean. A senior crew member was apparently contacting the control tower from the Sewol-ho ferry, but whether the captain, who's facing tremendous criticism for escaping the ship before the passengers was in the steering room, is not known yet. What we need to find out more is why the captain didn't inform the passengers promptly about the situation during that 30-minute time frame, and why the crew members evacuated before the passengers. And Daniel, this is just coming in. Prosecutors have launched an official investigation into the operator of the Sewol-ho ferry, Cheongjin Marine Company, as well as the owner of the ship. The prosecution has ordered a travel ban on some 30 to 40 company personnel, including the crew members.
All right, Hyun-kyung, the probe broadens, and we'll find out more by the minute. We'll look forward to hearing more from you soon on those matters. In the meantime, the two affected areas by the accident could be declared as special disaster zones later today. Is that correct?
That is correct. Earlier in the day, Presidential Office spokesman Min Kyung-uk told reporters that President Park Geun-hye will likely approve declaring Ansan in Gyeonggi-do province near Seoul and Jindo Island in southwestern Jeollanam-do province as special disaster zones. Danwon High School, where most of the student passengers on the ferry were from, is located in Ansan, and Jindo Island is, of course, where the Pengmok-hang harbor, the nearest harbor from the sunken ferry, is. Now, once President Park gives the green light, which could come as early as later today, then the government can provide funds to the rescue and search operations and give financial assistance to the victims and their families, as well as those that are still waiting for their loved ones to return. Daniel?
All right, Hyun-kyung, thank you for that. That was our Laah Hyun-kyung, and we'll turn to her in our later newscast for more important updates. Now we turn to our Jimyeong-gil at Pengmok-hang Harbor, that is just 20 kilometers from where the Sewol-ho ferry capsized now. That is the focal point of search and rescue operations at the moment. Myung-gil, more and more bodies are being retrieved. We are seeing the death toll rise by the hour, but unfortunately, no change in the number of survivors.
You're right, Daniel. The death toll is rising by the hour. The number of total death toll that we have currently is 56, and the rescue team here is trying to identify the bodies. The dozens of bodies have been recovered from the vessel last night. That was when the rescue team here was able to break into the windows to gain access into the cabins. Special tents are set up on the rear sides of the harbor where the DNA samples are taken from family members and the bodies that come in. Once the bodies' DNA samples are taken, they are directly sent to hospitals. Unfortunately, there was a tragic news this morning. The Navy confirmed that a Navy officer has died yesterday after he hit his head during rescue operations on Wednesday. He fell into coma.
Right, very unfortunate. Could you also update us on the rescue efforts so far? We'll need all the manpower and equipment we can muster at this moment, including, of course, Mother Nature's cooperation. Could you give us more details on that?
Yes, Daniel. Another 2 underwater drones will be arriving here at the Pengmok-hang harbor on Sunday night, along with 2 U.S. technical experts to lend support to the ongoing rescue operations. Also, 5 guidelines, a total of 5 guidelines, which divers can use to get into the ship, has been attached to the vessel since yesterday night. With the new routes into the ferry secured, the divers can all simultaneously carry out rescue operations. The emergency headquarters here says they have over 500 divers carrying out an all-out rescue and search operations today, along with 204 vessels and 34 aircraft. A side-scan sonar has been dispatched to detect any bodies that may drift away from the accident site. The weather is clear down here right now, and the tide is pretty low at just about 1 meter. So the conditions are improving here for rescue operations. Daniel?
Well, an ounce of good news so far is that nature isn't providing roadblocks today. We are all hoping for this continued drought of good news to end soon. That was our Kim Myung-gil. Thank you for that report. Our Kim Myung-gil reporting live from Pengmok-hang Harbor near the ferry disaster site. Now, when an accident happens, there is a window of time when the chance of survival is highest. For many on board the Sewol-ho ferry, that window was shut tight while waiting inside the vessel while help was right outside. Our Shin Se-min reports.
The first 30 minutes to an hour of a disastrous accident is called the golden time. It is a period of time in which crucial decisions must be made in order to ensure a better chance of survival for those in peril. As more information comes out about the ill-fated Sewol-ho ferry and the events directly after its accident, the more it seems that those in charge, that those responsible for making sure everyone on board were safe, were derelict in their duties. The message says, please contact the maritime police. The ship is in danger and it is listing. It was made at 8:55 a.m. Wednesday from the now sunken ferry. And it was the first and the only call for help. 3 minutes later, the police report an official distress situation of the ferry, and 2 minutes after that, 9 a.m., an announcement tells passengers to say where they are inside the ferry. Half an hour later, 100 or so naval and civilian ships descend on the ferry's location to help with the unfolding crisis. The first rescue helicopter arrives at the scene at around 9:40 a.m. and the rescue team is dispatched. But passengers in the Sewol-ho ferry were told to stay put inside their cabins. At 10:25 a.m., the passenger ferry has listed over 90 degrees, and within an hour, it has completely capsized. In the critical time directly after the ferry encountered trouble, the captain and crew hesitated to deploy lifeboats. If they had stayed on board to save those they were responsible for, this might very well be a different story today, a story of survival instead of monumental tragedy. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Rescue teams on the scene had hoped to use underwater vehicles to help locate victims of the Sewol disaster, but there were strong tidal currents and limited visibility hindering that operation, unfortunately. Our Park Ji-won tells us more about some of the devices divers could use to assist their efforts.
This is remotely operated underwater vehicle called the Hemire, developed by the Korea Institute of Ocean Science and Technology. This unmanned vehicle can dive up to 6,000 meters to the bottom in the sea and move at a speed of about 2.8 kilometers per hour. This multifunctional deep submergence vehicle is equipped with robotic arms, a diverse set of measuring instruments, and an underwater camera. Some question whether this state-of-the-art unmanned underwater vehicle can provide any help in the ongoing rescue operations of the Sewol-ho ferry. However, experts say the vehicle was developed for the purpose of deep-sea exploration, where currents are not very strong.
The tidal current speeds near the Sewol accident site are about 8 kilometers per hour. The propulsion of the underwater vehicle needs to be at least twice that.
Another piece of equipment that could help is this so-called diving bell, which provides an air pocket where divers can breathe. Deployed near divers, it can lengthen the amount of time they can stay underwater.
Divers now have to wait for the currents to stop because strong tidal currents have been hampering their operations. This can be a shelter for divers, and divers can continue dives for 20 hours.
The establishment of systemic technology support by revamping remotely controlled submergence vehicles and innovative diving technology is ever the more urgent to save lives during maritime disasters. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Korean government authorities have admitted that private divers are more capable in rescue operations. A growing chorus of criticism is blaming the government for not cooperating enough with private divers at the very beginning of the search. Our Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
The divers who successfully pumped air into the sunken Sewol-ho ferry and entered the second deck to search for survivors were neither Navy nor Coast Guard divers. They were divers working for private companies. Currently, hundreds of private divers are helping out in the rescue operations. And the Coast Guard admits that these divers are better.
We have to say that divers from private companies are more able to search the ship underwater and also in rescue operations.
The other advantage they have is the quality of their equipment. Private divers are using remote-controlled submersibles and other high-tech gear that allows them to communicate and breathe at the same time. This equipment, experts say, is far more developed than used by the Navy. Families awaiting news on their missing loved ones are demanding to know why private divers have not actively been taking part in each and every stage of the search and rescue operation. They point to what they say is a lack of cooperation between the Navy and the Coast Guard and the private divers from the very beginning of the search. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News.
우리도 너희를 포기하지 않을 테니까 너희도 절대 포기하지 마.
Well, there hasn't been any news on the recovered bodies that were scheduled to arrive at Mokpo-Hanguk Hospital until now. For more on the situation there, we now connect live with our Lee Seung-jae SJ, who is there at the hospital. Seung-jae, I hear one of the bodies arrived not too long ago.
We have been waiting for several hours for the bodies to appear, just like you said. But of course, at 4 p.m., one of the bodies that was recovered earlier on the day have arrived here at the Mokpo-Hanguk Hospital. Now, of course, words cannot express the kind of atmosphere it was. As soon as the first ambulance arrived, just absolute silence from all the cameramen, all the reporters at the scene. Now, as soon as the ambulance arrived, two of the members of the deceased came out as well, which meant that the passenger has been identified. Now, 30 minutes later, another ambulance arrived carrying one of the bodies that was recovered as well, but none of the family members coming out of that ambulance, which means that body has yet to be identified. Now, once again, no words can describe the emotions the family members were feeling at that time.
All right, you are, and I understand that some of the families of the victims have also left the area and are on their way to Ansan. What's the latest on that?
That's right. Some of the bodies that have been identified on the scene have quickly been transferred over to Ansan, so the family members have also moved over to Ansan as well. Now, here at Mokpo-Hanguk Hospital, a bus from Ansan picked up a group of family members who found out about their loved ones. And for others who are still waiting for the news of the missing, each minute seems like a century. Now, that's all the updates for now. I'll be back for more here at Mokpo-Hanguk Hospital. Back to you.
Thank you for that, SJ. That was our Seung-jae reporting live from Mokpo-Hanguk Hospital. We look forward to some good news from him later on. Now, when bodies are recovered, they go through a series of identification procedures. And to speed up the process and help identify the deceased, medical staff have begun collecting DNA samples from the families of the missing. Our Kim Min-ji has more on this story.
When bodies are recovered, the first procedure is to check the personal belongings of the victim and their physical appearance, such as their height. If the body is able to be identified, the family is contacted so they can confirm with their own eyes. If the body cannot be identified, the body is sent to a nearby hospital for examination, which includes taking DNA samples and fingerprint identification. Blood tests and biopsies are taken if the recovered body has been severely damaged. However, with fears of a sudden rush of bodies being recovered at once and complaints that the procedures have been inefficient, medical experts have begun collecting DNA samples from relatives of the missing passengers. Tents to collect DNA have been set up beside the auditorium where many families of the missing passengers have been spending sleepless nights, as well as at the Pengmok-hang harbor near the site of the accident. While rescue divers are putting in great efforts to search for survivors and recover bodies, the time that has passed and the harsh conditions at sea could now make it difficult to identify the bodies. Almost 90% of relatives of the missing have registered their DNA. Although they are still clinging on to hope their loved ones are still alive, some are preparing for the worst.
My wife still wants to believe our child will come back alive, but looking at the situation now, I just hope our child's body comes back soundly at least.
With unfavorable weather and harsh conditions at sea hampering rescue efforts, the physical and mental health of the families are also deteriorating by the minute.
I took care of my niece for 11 years. I'm so upset. I told her to have a safe trip and she said yes. Since then, I've heard nothing.
Navy officials say the DNA samples will be analyzed as soon as possible. The DNA samples will be sent to the National Forensic Center to see if they match with the victims. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
And now we turn to our Connie Kim, who is standing by at the Korea University Ansan Hospital, where the most number of the high school students injured in the accident are currently being treated. Some of the deceased have also arrived there. Connie, tell us more.
Hi, Daniel. I'm standing by at the funeral hall of Korea University Ansan Hospital. Now, we are getting updates that the deceased bodies at Hangul-Mopo Hospital is now being transferred to the city of Ansan. So we are definitely expecting streams of tear-stained families and friends over in this area. Now, none of the deceased passengers in this hospital have returned to their families yet, but earlier today, 6 bodies in other hospitals and funeral halls in this area have returned to their families. Now, this is the first time any Danon High School student have been released. Remember that more than 320 students from that school were on board the ill-fated ferry. Now, inside the funeral hall, I saw some friends of the deceased crying out their friends' names. We're not sure how many of the bodies recovered today will be transported here, but I'll let you know later on.
We can feel the grief and sorrow over here. I also heard that there was a press briefing held by Gyeonggi Provincial Office of Education. Could you give us more details on that, Connie?
Yes, there was a press briefing held here at Ansan Olympic Museum earlier in the morning, held by the Education Office. Now, they confirmed that 23 Danon High School students and 4 teachers are confirmed dead as of now. Now, 19 students lie here in this Ansan area, with 4 still remaining back in Jindo Island. A joint investigation headquarters office is set up in cooperation with Ansan City, headed by Gyeonggi Governor Kim Moon-soo, so they can coordinate. The task force team has deployed helicopters, personnel, ambulances, and equipment to speed up the remaining rescue operations at Jindo Island. It plans to set up an emergency task force team on the island to help provide support for the families who are waiting in agony for news on their beloved ones. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you for that, Connie. That was our Connie Kim reporting on the grief-stricken families and friends of those who are affected by the recent ferry accident. Reporting live from Korea University Ansan Hospital. We look forward to more from you on those stories, Connie. Thank you for that. The nation is united to share the grief of the families who are desperate for more information about their missing loved ones. Some 5,000 volunteers from more than 240 private and religious groups are at the site with the family members, offering necessities and encouragement. Our Kim Ji-yeon has the story.
As days pass by, families who long for their loved ones are growing wary. In times of crisis like these, a warm meal and a helping hand are a great help. Volunteers from various relief organizations came to Jindo Island, where the sunken ferry is located and where family members are gathered to find more about their missing family members.
A lot of families came rushing to site when they heard about the ferry incident. So we're trying to provide necessities while they wait to hear news of their loved ones.
The health of the families is deteriorating as time goes by, as rescue operations are further being delayed. Medicine and medical supplies are running short.
We'll provide medicine and medical supplies until the crisis recedes. We're planning to have a fundraiser so that we can keep renewing the supplies.
The nation is being united in times of crisis. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
The thoughts and prayers are not only coming from Korea. The hope for a miracle transcends borders. Messages of support are pouring in from around the world, and our Hwang Sung-hee has more on that.
Please join me in praying for the victims of the ferry disaster in Korea and their families. This is what Pope Francis posted on his Twitter account this weekend. The Pope is due to visit Korea in August, becoming the first head of the Catholic Church to make the trip in 25 years. Pope Francis is just one of countless people who are grieving for the victims of the capsized Sewol-ho ferry around the globe. English Premier League football club Manchester United tweeted that, "Our thoughts are with everybody affected by the ferry disaster in South Korea." Arsenal defender Per Mertesacker tweeted, "My compassion to the families and people in Korea being affected from the Sewol accident," adding in Korean that he prays for a miracle. Ahead of her Korea tour next week, British singer Connie Talbot tweeted she's leaving for Korea at such a sad time and said profits from the concert will be directed towards the ferry accident. Over in the Thai capital of Bangkok, at a prayer event hosted by Nation TV, citizens flagged banners and signs with words of condolences and support for the Korean victims. On the other side of the globe in downtown Boston, Korean students from Harvard University, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Boston University prayed for the safe rescue of all that were aboard the Sewol-ho ferry. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
With search and rescue efforts ongoing here in Korea's southwestern coast, we've been paying close attention to the weather conditions down there. So let's get a check with our Michelle Park for details. Michelle?
Well, the weather has finally taken a turn for the better. Now it's currently clear with a few clouds in Jindo and with the tides coming in at highs of 2.2 meters, which is fairly low, and it seems to improve more throughout the week. Now, also the fog has cleared up with much better visibility, currently up to 20 kilometers, which is making it easier for the rescuers to search underwater. Now, the times of the slow tides came quite early today. The two of the times have already passed, leaving one more on its way at 5:55 p.m. local time, which is coming to us in a couple of minutes. Now, our water temperature in Jindo is at 11.6 degrees Celsius with winds blowing at 2 meters per second and the height of the wave at 0.5 to 1.5 meters, which is considered calm, and it will help them out underwater rescue efforts. Now, that's all I have at this moment. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you.
Thank you for that, Michelle. Our hopes and prayers are for those who are affected by the accident and those who are displaying valor and heroism by just throwing themselves in the rescue efforts going on. And we'll have more updates on this matter here on ARIRANG News. We'll be back with more updates at the top of the hour. This has been Daniel Choy. Thank you for staying with us.